Alrighty, first things third, I went ahead and fixed the tailgate. Never you mind that. So a lot of times, I think pretty much every one of these trucks I've ever bought actually, these tailgate bushings in here are gone. And the tailgate just wobbles around and bangs and makes all kind of racket. Now they're in there now. And of course it's already twisted, so yeah, no surprise there. So, you know, you go and you buy the generic Dorman. There's the part number maybe. 38641. But your tailgate will actually open and close nicely. See that? Old Ford tailgate that you can pick up with one hand, and this side's not great because the tailgate itself is bent. I did adjust the latch. It is working. You just can't tell. Maybe. It was working earlier. Yep, it's tripping. You can see in there. Oh, no, you're upside down. So I fixed the tailgate as good as it's going to get. Like I said, it is bent, so it's not going to be perfect. And I'm not spending $400 on an aftermarket tailgate. And the other thing that always seems to happen to these trucks is that this striker gets pushed in over time, and then the door won't shut. Watch this. So you move the striker out. All you have to do is loosen this up and it'll move around. Doesn't even shut hard. It's on both latches and it opens back up. Now, could it be a little tighter here in the gap? Yeah, sure. But, you know, it's closing, and that's about all you can ask of these old Fords. So, it can be that easy. All right, I'm gonna go get a ridiculous amount of parts that I've already purchased, and I'll bring you back in a minute. If that isn't loading the parts cannon, I don't know what is. For a truck that only needs a slave cylinder and a fuel pump, one of which is already installed, that probably looks like a lot. And it is. There's a long list somewhere, I think it's in the cab. This is about 80% of that. When I was working on the fuel pump, I was checking out everything, and I think this is most of the big stuff. And believe it or not, even though you're looking at a pile of parts, it was only about $800. So far, let's talk about where we are then. Bought the truck for $1,000. I put $250 into getting it running. Well, no, I put $350 into getting it running because I had to buy 2 fuel pumps. Bedliner was another $50, so that's $1,400. There's about $800 here, so that's like $2,200. I have a set of used tires for it, because these are shot, over in the barn. That was another $200, so that's $2,400, and I'll try to get a tab list here on screen. So we're burning through the budget, but you know, if you shop online, which obviously I do, you can actually buy stuff closeout pretty cheap if you're not real particular about your brand. And I'll talk about that as I go. And I'm a big fan of doing things once. So like, it only needs a slave cylinder, but I'm not dropping a transmission to not put a new clutch in it. I like to do brakes, and we'll talk about that. And I went ahead and splurged on brake lines. The rear line between the back of the cab and the cross member, no lie, has 6 splices in it. So yeah, it was time. So this should all get it running and driving safely. And I think that's the key. Now there's going to be some incidentals and there's going to be some wants. I want to put a locker in it. I have not yet figured out my trailer hitch solution or my bumper solution. So that's going to be something. And I'm also going to be scrounging parts off the shelf. Oh, I have a new rear glass for it. I have to order a seal. So yeah, we're going to be close, but we'll talk about it as we go. So first things first, let me unbox some things here and find the pieces I need to put my cab back together here. Unfortunately, I don't know if I mentioned in the video yet, and if I did, I'll just delete this. The washer switch, or I'm sorry, the wiper switch did not want to come out. I think somebody had glued the knob on. So we ended up cutting it to get the knob off, to get this bezel off. So I had to buy a new wiper switch, and it wasn't expensive. And I opted for the deluxe chrome knobs for the replacement pieces here for the headlights and the wipers. So let's get this dash put back together, and probably, I don't know, tear into the front end here tonight and see what all it needs. So you just pop this bracket out. And there is a ground wire back there we'll have to snake down. They're all 5mm. This guy comes out like so. Here's your wiring connector. Hopefully this has a new nut in it. No. Why would it have a nut in it? Oh, good. The old one's laying on the floor. That's why we can't have nice things. Interesting. So, here's the bezel of the old one. Here's the new one. Notice anything missing? Let's see here. Is there a ground wire on this bracket? No. Well, the headlight switch is working without it. Wizard. Let's see. I think I have to key on. Oh, hang on. It's not going to do anything until I connect it. Duh. Must be at least 20% smarter than the machine. Now, how do you connect here? Let's see. Hold, please, while I pretend like I know what I'm doing. And it goes like that. It's the part where I find out the Chinesium connector isn't the same. Alright, where's all your pins? Oh no! You fell down again. Sorry about that. If we didn't do the job twice, how would we know we did it right? So this is neat. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to put an arrow when I edit the film. There's an extra plastic piece here on the new one that is definitely not on the old one. And that is not going to go down on this connector. And this is why I'm going to rant now, and I'm going to say it what I didn't say in my previous videos. I really don't like LMC truck, which is where I got this from. They suck, actually. I'm just going to say it. They suck. They're terrible. I don't know why I do business with them. It's really irritating because it seems like about half the time their stuff fits badly. And the rest of the time, it doesn't fit at all. So, pro tip, future Nick, stop buying from LMC. I'm going to go find a pair of cutters and remove this extra tab so it fits. All right, it works now. Although, I'll admit, not very well. Probably because not all the wires are 100% where they need to be, but it does work. So let me finish putting it back together here, and then we'll show you that it works. I tested it off camera because I was fighting with it. So like I was saying, you know, I did just cut that tab off, by the way. I really don't want to keep buying from LMC. I'm just not impressed anymore. There was a time when they were good, but I don't know. It just seems like you really get what you pay for. Now I'll admit this wasn't very expensive. This was like 20 bucks or something, but you know, it should work. There's no reason it shouldn't work. I'm back. I went ahead and just made up a new ground wire to go with that panel. I was a little concerned that if it was supposed to have a ground wire and didn't, that it might not work forever. So there's a ground screw underneath it here. Right there. That I'm removing real quick. You might even be able to see it with the camera sitting on the bench. And replacing, so whatever. I'll fish it back up through here. And I'll just put it under a screw on this bracket. And then it won't be a concern. Actually, what I'm going to do is go on top. That way I can take advantage of the clean surface where the screw was. Where'd my nut driver go? Oh, that was my good screwdriver too. Bend it down just a little bit. And where's the fuel selector switch? Much as I love the dash ripped open look, let's go ahead and put it back together. I do actually have the cover for the steering wheel too. Put that back on here. All right, 1980s plastic. Please don't break when I snap you back into place. Oh, whoops. That one goes on second. Why did you let me do that, Internet? Why did nobody say stop? You're putting it on backwards. Oh yeah, that doesn't sound like stuff's about to break at all, does it? In case you're wondering, I don't know if I said, the only reason this stuff is off is because I had to drop the column. I think you can see now, it kind of bridges underneath. All right. All right. Survey says headlights work. Dimmer switch works. Can you believe that? And wipers work. High. I only have low in the wiper motor. What a shock. And I think the squirter actually works. Well, maybe. Oh, yeah, the squirter works. I'll be snookered. Well, that's something. So that all works. Yeah, I don't have high. Probably the wiper motor's bad. Whatever, it's fine for now. There we go. Let me see if I can reach over here and get that piece of trim back on the column. Good morning. It is now Sunday. I did not film at all yesterday because honestly, pulling a transmission, it's just me grunting and swearing for several hours. But it's out, clutch is replaced, transmission is back in. We did not have to pull the factory exhaust, so that was nice. And I don't care what anyone says, these Mazda transmissions are not light. It was pretty heavy. I mean, I do have a transmission jack, but it was a chore getting it back in there. Somehow, so carnage report here, somehow we lost a bolt. We had to keep sweeping the floor up, otherwise nothing would roll from all the rocks and dirt and junk that was falling off the truck. So I think it probably got swept up. I don't know. It's Easter Sunday, so all the stores are closed, so I can't get a replacement. But there's 2 out right now because I took the one out to size it. The slave cylinder hydraulic line would not disconnect. There's some kind of like hydraulic quick coupler kind of thing, but it's plastic, so of course it was solid. I finally took a chisel to it and it still wouldn't open up. So the bolt cutters fixed that problem. And the new slave cylinder is in, which was, you'll recall, the other complaint. And really it was a textbook job. Cross member out. Again, you have to kind of work your way around the exhaust if you're not cutting it, but we did get all the bolts out and the cross member out. You will have to remove the fuel selector switch, which is sitting right here, to get to these bolts. And you have to take this bracket that's in front of it, which is over on the bench, out to actually get the cross member out. And of course, I think you can see here, one of them broke, this vent line one here. So this is your output side, and then this is your input side. And one of those was broke before I even took it apart. So yeah, good thing I was planning on deleting that. So again, the stores are closed. I could not get some fuel line fittings. I went ahead and cut everything here to get I'm just gonna put barbs in it and run flex line. And let's play count the brake line splices, shall we? 1, 2, there's a third one behind the tank you can't see. And I think there was another one over here somewhere. So I was always planning on putting brake lines in it. And I have them. I bought a kit. They're pre-bent, and it's just, if you're doing brake lines and you're not buying the pre-bent ones, you're just wasting time. I mean, it's so much easier. You still have to modify them, but it is so much easier. I'm kind of at a standstill this morning. I couldn't go to the store. Couldn't get stuff I need to finish putting the transmission back in. Couldn't get any RTV, so I can split the transfer case and find out what we broke in there. So I think instead, I got some brakes, I got some shock absorbers, I got brake lines. I'm gonna do all that here today because, and you can kind of see on film here, she's crusty. And with all these splices in this rear brake line, I don't even know where the splices start and the factory line is. So, yep, that's what we're gonna work on today. I got shocks too. We'll go ahead and slam those in while the drive shaft's out. So I probably won't film too much until I get to putzing with brakes. Underneath here, it's not easy to film, but that's where we're at. It's coming along. All right, I got the left front off here. This is supposed to be screwed to the rotor. It was not. I have to see if we can rectify that, although I don't see anywhere for it to actually attach. So yeah, maybe I'll throw a spring clip on there. It isn't supposed to come off with the wheel anyway. I gotta get everything lined back up here. Hang on. Now it's gonna fight me. Here, you can watch me get it lined up. There. But everything works here in the front end. You know, manual hubs are nice. I did not order rotors. I looked at this ahead of time and I think I can polish this up and then just file this little bit of a ridge off. I did order pads because I had looked at it before and saw how thin the pads were. And I ordered flex lines. They're pretty rusty here at the caliper. And the other reason is they're old. Flex lines, I don't know if y'all know this, but they can collapse over time, and you can see that this has been dragging a little bit based on how worn this pad is compared to the back one. So this line's probably partially collapsed. I also, like I said, I ordered new hard lines, so I think I'm gonna have to take the inner fender out to get to that T. Maybe not. I don't know, maybe I can reach up in there without the front drive shaft in. That'd be nice, because man, these inner fenders never go back in. And of course, I knew the shocks were blowed out up here. And this confirms my suspicions that, oh, crap. This is a dual shock truck. I did not order a dual shock setup. Son of a gun. Well, the one I have will fit the front one. I'll have to see about getting the rear one. The this is what I suspected. This spring's pretty wore out over here. So I have a set of springs for it. But everything else, I mean, it's crusty. The paint's definitely coming off of it, as you can see, but it's solid. I mean, there's no give in anything, you know. So it's, ball joints are good, tie rods are good. Whatever passes for a sway bar end link is good. It's crusty, which is why I don't want to take any more apart than I have to. The universal just needs greased, but like I said, everything's pretty solid. I don't know. Hopefully, I can salvage this caliper. It looks bad, but it could just be surface rust. I can't see the boot. It doesn't look horrible. So usually when they're like this and I know I'm replacing everything, I just take bolt cutters to it because they almost never want to come apart. And then I'll just let the fluid drain into a cup. There's not a whole lot of brake fluid in it. And like I said, I think I told you before, the pedal's really soft. So yeah, it was time. But this is pretty easy stuff. I'll get it done here today. Part stores aren't open, so I'll have to see which shock I have and which one I need, and I'll get the other one ordered. But alrighty. Forgot to say, if you're taking these old Fords apart, there's two pins. There's a pin here and a pin here. You just drive them out with a hammer. A lot of people dog on this caliper. I love it because they almost never get stuck on the slide pins. Usually they're still free and they're still moving, even when they look like this. So I don't know why modern cars don't use this. I suspect it's because it's hard to assemble. And it was probably burning up labor on the line, but it is actually, I think, a really solid caliper design. So we'll just dispel a little myth there while I have it apart. Alrighty, brake lines are out. The clip that goes behind that soft line, you have to kind of drive out with a punch from back here. It's not the easiest thing in the world. I did get all the brake lines out of the T. I had to do it from underneath, but it's actually not too bad underneath. There's plenty of room on the side of the block, so no need to remove the inner fender. I went ahead and torched the spring. It's just the easiest way I've found to get them out. The shock that I have is actually the rear shock, which is nice because I think the front shock, it's rusty, but I don't see oil everywhere, so it might be okay. We'll know here a little more once we get the spring out. And I can wiggle this around and see what it does. Although as heavy as these axles are, probably won't tell me anything. So I'll finish getting the spring out here. Just take your retainer loose on the top and the whole thing will fall out, and then put your impact on what's left of that nut down there and out it'll come. And you can see it wasn't real tight, but it's under tension, so it's usually not an issue. I just cut them. You don't have to cut them. You can put the spring compressor on them, but there's really no reason not to cut them. It's just the easiest and safest way I've found. All right, spring is in. I still have the compressors on it. Front shock did have to actually come out, which is good because I think it was in worse condition than the rear one. You'll never get enough travel to get the spring in, even with the spring compressors on it. Now, when you're installing a spring, I like to put the retainer clip on top first. So in theory, it can't jump out of there and decide to do dumb things, but it very much still can, so always be careful. And you're gonna have to compress it with a bottle jack anyway, so don't just go wild loosening up your spring compressors. Put a little tension on it, and you'll see them starting to slack off. Now I may bottom out here. I think I am. That's okay. So there, now I got a little tension on it. As long as it stays on the bottle jack, it shouldn't be able to jump out. And what we're gonna do is probably leave those like that and see if we can get the lower retainer on it. It's just a upside down dish. Drop it in like that. And then hopefully get our nut on it here. All right, I'm gonna need two hands. There, with the lower nut in and the upper retainer, basically it can't go anywhere. So now very slowly, you just want to release these a little bit at a time. Let the spring kind of equalize. And right now the bottle jack's holding it, because if it didn't, it would overextend and it would put a lot of stress on your radius arm bushings. So let's see if I can get this to set somewhere here. You can watch the exciting fun that is opening these things up. Usually they'll just back off on their own a little bit at a time. See how that one moved a little bit? So now I'm just going to take my open end here, open them up a little bit, and then stand back and hit it. And usually it'll jump. Come on. Jump. Make a liar out of me. Come on. There it goes. You just go a little bit at a time, working it loose. It won't expand nearly as much. There, I think it's actually just going on its own now. Trouble is these, especially with these truck springs, they get a little bound up and then they don't want to open up. There, its tension's coming out of it now. It's getting close. Or is this one tight now? Yeah. So we'll give this one a little convincing hit. Come on. Come on. Where's my bar? There it went. Oh no, you're moving. How was that? That must not have been fun. Oh, got a little bit of tension in it yet. There we go. I'll just set this one a little bit at a time. In theory, it can never get out of here, but that still doesn't mean I have any desire to take a coil spring to the face. These aren't the easiest thing in the world to use, especially this Chinese special that I have, but it gets the job done. There, it's equalizing. There we go. I don't think there's any tension in it now. No, it's loose. Now we just got to finish taking it apart. All right, I'll finish taking it apart and I'll bring it back when I start putting the shock absorber in. Okay. Got a healthy coating of anti-seize on this pad. And oh my, is this hard to do one-handed. So it sits down there in a little notch. Don't get the anti-seize on the friction. And it should just jump right in. You can see it's nice and loose and soft. I did anti-seize the tracks, got them all cleaned out, cleaned up the rotor-ish. It just needs to be driven. I don't think there's anything wrong with that rotor. I remember your bleeder always goes up. See if I can do this one-handed. Bleeder always goes up. Get this on there like that. All right, hold on. Okay, so it's just sitting on there. I got some new pins on the bench. Although, to be honest, I probably could have reused the old ones. And I have to wiggle it around a little bit, get it to start in. They do have a preferred top and bottom, so make sure you line that up. And we just tap it, tap, tap. And I kind of beat on the back side of that just a hair to shrink it. So I'm just gonna gently flare it back out. There we go. Bottom same way. Not a good idea to reuse crush washers or brass washers. You can reuse the bolt, and like I said, these brake hoses like to swell, so I always buy new ones. I'm replacing all the brake lines anyway. The pedal was really soft, and usually that is indicative of at least one leak. It had basically no fluid in it. So just a reminder, one washer goes on top like so, one goes on the bottom, the hose goes like this, and we will we'll just thread that on loosely for the time being. Although, actually no, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that up. Kind of like oil drain plugs. These are either loose or they're either tight or they're removed. Otherwise you'll go to bleed the brakes and you'll hit the pedal and you'll just have fluid everywhere. And let me tell you how irritating that is. Having done it at least once in my life. Of course, this bolt is old. But when you're home, click. All right, now for the fun part. Trash pile over here at the end. Getting the retaining clip on this. So this is what the retaining clips look like. And you got a hexagonal hole here, which you're not going to be able to see, that this fits into. And then the spring clip goes on it like this. And this one's a little on the loose side. Let's see if we can tighten it up. Just pinch this back together ever so slightly. Because it did not come with a new one of these. And we'll just go ahead and flatten that guy out like so. Usually they install a little easier to remove, so. Okay. So that's what it looks like. There's the hose in its little hole, and it is hexagonal just like the head of that. And then here's that clip. And we just want to tappy tap tap. Just like that. And we'll reach around here and make sure we're gonna go a little more actually. Can you see? It's okay, neither can I. And there we go. That's installed. Brand new brake hose. All right. That means slap a tire back on this side because it is done. Let's see if we took the lean out of it. If anyone is wondering what the cost of badly made parts in third world countries is, it's stuff like this. We got all the new hard lines put on yesterday. And I should say I can't say enough good things about inline tube. It's just the stuff is bent, it fits, it has all the right ends on it. You don't have to do anything. Just put them in. Now, you got to get them tight, and I'll show you here in the rear where we didn't get one all the way tight. But that's not their fault. So we got the hard lines in, and I went ahead and threw the hardware kit at the rear drums. You can see, whoop, maybe you can see what the line looks like. Put a hardware kit in the rear drums. They were fine, shoes were fine, drums were fine. They did need new automatic adjusters on both sides. And there's some more hardline goodness all the way along the frame rail. And let me get under the catalytic converter here. You should be able to see. Everything's teed in up there, both for the front, which does not have ABS, and then for the rear, which does have ABS. And we were bleeding the brakes. And I was able to vacuum bleed the rears. So I'll show you that because apparently I've developed a leak. Not uncommon. And the fronts, if you can just barely make out the bleeder screw there, you can't get the vacuum bleeder on it, so no big deal. Pedal bleed and brake fluid everywhere from the underside of the brake hose. And what had happened was the ultra thin crush washers were not thick enough to stand off the brake hose from the caliper, because both have a little recess machined in them to hold the crush washer. And so we weren't actually crushing the crush washer, and brake fluid was just going everywhere, as evidenced by the Exxon Valdez routine here. So I don't really know what a good solution would be. My fear is if I go and buy new calipers, which you can see there really ain't anything wrong with these, or new hoses, I'm still going to have that problem. So we've fixed it with double stacked crush washers, which is supposed to be a no-no. You're not supposed to do that. So we'll see how it goes here today. I had to go get more brake fluid because there's a whole bottle on my floor now. And we didn't get a chance to actually look. And I think, yep, that one's got a little dribble on it too. So I'll have to go through and tighten up some hoses, it looks like. That's not uncommon. Usually you gotta let them set a little bit. So, yeah, not ideal. Probably the master cylinder is now bone dry, and we get to start the bleeding process all over again. It's okay. Now you get to see how I do it with a vacuum bleeder. Good news is front end's done, as you probably could see. Bad news is it has, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it has absolutely wrecked the camber on these wheels. So my guess is somebody set the alignment with the sacked out springs, because it did pick up like 2 or 3 inches of height in the front end, and it did level the truck out or square it off. So it did fix the problem. This is an adjustable style. You can see the castle nut with the eccentric there on the top ball joint. So it can be adjusted. I think that looks like some kind of adjustment. But yeah. So I didn't record yesterday. Honestly, there wasn't a whole lot to see. I don't think you'll find drum brake servicing to be that exciting. And there wasn't any carnage, so you didn't miss anything.